Florida voters will now get an up or down choice on abortion. It's going to be on November's ballot as an issue. It's a Republican nightmare and a Democratic dream. Governor Ron DeSantis signed a 6-week abortion ban that comes into play next month, goes into effect. In November, Floridians can decide to overturn it. The amendment needs a 60% yes vote. This segment isn't about abortion. So wherever you think about abortion, that's not what we're talking about. This is about the politics of it. Like abortion, don't like abortion, abortion is a ball and chain for Republicans. They keep getting shellacked on the issue since Roe was overturned. In Ohio, red state, 56% agreed to secure abortion rights. 59% of deep red Kansas voted against an abortion ban. Both of those are solidly red states that went for Trump by significant margins. Joining us now, Robert Patillo, civil rights attorney, Ashley Davis, former White House official for George W. Bush. Ashley, Republicans just can't figure out what to do about this, can they?
No, I think it's a really bad issue for Republicans. I think that this is a really good, I don't think that Democrats are going to win Florida over it, but I do think it keeps the conversation. And I also think that the abortion issue is like the southern border and immigration issue for Democrats, 100%.
Yeah, no, if Republicans are talking about abortion, they're losing. If Democrats are talking about immigration,
absolutely,
they're losing. Who defines the field of battle wins in politics. How much resources should Democrats, Robert, put into Florida?
I think a significant amount. We have to understand we've seen shifting political maps over the course of the last decade or so. The Rust Belt is no longer a Democratic strong suit. The Joe Biden, Scranton to Ohio to Pennsylvania, that's just not working anymore. However, we're seeing the Sun Belt becoming increasingly diverse. Places like Georgia, which went for President Biden. Places like North Carolina that went for President Obama. And Florida was long considered a swing state, and given the things we've seen recently, I think it may be there again.
But the president's down by 13% right now, and I would say as a Republican, I would love you to spend more money in Florida because then it would take away from other states.
Well, the flip side of that, though, is that if Democrats are spending more money in Florida, then Republicans are having to spend more money in Florida, and not just on the Donald Trump race, not just on the presidential race, but Marco Rubio and Rick Scott who's up. But you think about Ohio, for example, and I'm trying to figure out why this is so motivating, right? Ohio, the governor won by 25% as a Republican. Senate, Republican won by 6.5%. And yet, the state voted 56% to protect abortion. I guess, Robert, in the same way Republicans, kind of the dog caught the bunny and now doesn't know what to do with it, do Democrats risk overplaying their hand on this one?
I don't think so. I think that when we talk about quote-unquote abortion, we're talking about women's health care and women's reproductive rights. That's not just abortion. That's everything from access to morning-after pills, access to birth control, access to prenatal care, access to women's health care, scannings down the line, things I don't fully understand because I'm a man. And when you have old men telling women what to do with their bodies, that instinctively tells them we need to come out and turn out against this. And when it comes to also the resources questions, remember, President Biden raised more money on Thursday than the RNC and President Trump raised combined this entire year. They're going to have a probably 2-to-1.
Trump's got another big fundraiser. But you think about voter priorities for 2024, economy 31%, abortion is all the way down at 5%, Ashley, in terms of your number one priority. Yet it seems that Democrats view this, and maybe they have internals that show that this is just overwhelmingly.
Well, I think it's the swing voters that, if you look at the ceiling that both Trump and Biden have, they're still going to go after the swing voters. And the swing voters, I do agree with you 100%. Women do not want to be told what to do, and I think that it's going to get out some of those suburban women that wouldn't vote for Trump and necessarily aren't like really big on Biden, but will vote for Biden just so that doesn't happen. But I do have to say is the president came out today and said he's going to make his announcement on his thoughts on abortion in the next week, which I think probably, I mean, I don't want to say that I get to know what he's going to say, but that it's going to be some week that he'll agree to 16.
Right, well, look, Donald Trump for a long time was a pro-choice Democrat. He figured out that abortion was a good issue for Republicans. He bragged about overturning Roe v. Wade, but he also understood and he said publicly that abortion and Republicans' view on abortion has hurt them in the 2022 midterms. Kristi Noem, possible VP candidate. Simply put, the American First conservative policies are proven to be successful and represent the best hope for a happy, healthy, prosperous life for Americans who are born and unborn. This is a fight, and if we're going to win hearts and minds, we can't be afraid to enter the ring. This is her talking about compassionately communicating life is her idea. Robert, Democrats have staked out this position. No restrictions on abortion, period. That's what they've done. If Republicans can get their act together, which at least some are arguing they need to, and come up with a cohesive message that does poll well, aren't Democrats vulnerable?
No, just as we were saying during the break, you have to pick a side, pick an issue, and run with it. Democrats have very clearly laid out what their side of the issue is. I have no idea what the Republican position was. When I was a kid, it was right to life. Life begins at conception. Now it's like, life kind of begins whenever it's politically convenient. That's where life begins for Republicans. I don't think that's a good place to be at politically.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.